once you've made enough money to keep like the bill collectors away, I don't think the more money contributes to any more happiness or satisfaction in your life.
Yeah, I think for a lot of those super rich people, it just becomes like the game of making more money and like winning in their eyes. Not
For
like,
sure.
oh, I made $500 million. You know what I really want is you know, 750 million boat or some shit.
Well,
No, that
maybe, but
wouldn't
I
make
think
any
it's
sense.
more when you actually start like taking a hard look at your life, it becomes sometimes even harder when you have a lot of money, right? Because it's like I don't even have a reason to be sad or, discontent right now, but like I don't have the people in my life that I wish I would have, right? You see a lot of celebrities will reach a certain point where they've kind of ostracized everybody that meant something to them, and they're kind of not as surrounded by friends or family or loved ones as they'd like to be later in life. And money doesn't really buy you much in terms of company or in terms of like feeling comfortable or happy with yourself, I think.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's a great problem to have. To have all those necessity boxes checked of like I'm never going to be hungry, I'm never going to be homeless, never going to be, destitute.
Sure.
And so then you need like what is it, Maslow's hierarchy of needs, where you just go up and up and up on that, and then you need to find yourself and find people who actually genuine. It's got to be hard as someone who's worth 20, 30, 40, 50, $1 million and getting even more to figure out people who actually like you, because
Yeah.
anyone is going to pretend that they want to be your buddy if you've got 100 mil in the bank. Like they could be an insufferable cunt, and you could like be talking shit about them to your other friends as soon as they leave. But as soon as they're in there, oh yeah, Ted, man, you're the best, dude. Oh, you're so funny and entertaining. I can't wait to go on your yacht with you. Like that's gotta fuck with your head.
Something that we do also as humans, like I noticed this is an observation I make, that like we acclimate very quickly to the positive things around us and they don't really impact us anymore. And that's like kind of the great personal crime that we always commit. We take everything for granted. The easiest way to think of this is like if you've ever had like a head cold or maybe even like the kind of like some version of the flu, like some of you just kind of feel like shit. Sometimes you'll go to bed at night with like your mouth open and all you can think is like, I wish I could just breathe through my
Yeah.
fucking nostrils without my head being stuffed. Like that's all I want in life and I would be so happy. And maybe you wake up the next morning and you actually can, and for like 12 hours you have the most euphoric experience where you're just happy to be alive and healthy and not like not runny nose, not stuffed up, not with a headache, and it's like the best feeling ever. But then the next day after that, you're not fucking thinking of that shit anymore. You're way done. You're way past that, And I think
Yeah.
accumulation of wealth and everything is very similar. I used to be, before I got into streaming, my life was very fucked financially, incredibly fucked. I was doing horrible work for no fucking money, and I have that perspective, which is good for me. But it's still pretty easy where I'm at in life to take a lot of shit for granted and not think, like if I wanted to, I could fly to Japan tomorrow and like goof off for 2 weeks and I could do it. And like that's it's kind of a cool thing to think about, but you acclimate to it so incredibly quickly that you're not constantly like taking stock on how grateful you are for the opportunities you have,
A long time ago, I
Yeah.
had a boss who I kind of adopted as a mentor too, and he was talking about people's natural happiness level and natural stress level, and it was eye-opening for me the way he described it. He's, people just have a level that they kind of gravitate to, and when things get better or worse, they'll go above it or below it. He pointed out to a coworker. I may have told the story before. This guy was into the Rams, right? He was into the Rams, the football team. It was his thing. It was his life. He'd sit there in stress over who they were drafting and whether they won or lost, and he'd just follow them like crazy. Then he got married, then he had a kid. He had the same level of stress and happiness and highs and lows, just about more important things. It's who he was, and it's where he was. He was always kind of anxiety filled and on the edge of sanity. And I've noticed the same thing. Like I'm a pretty happy, content guy. Times have been high and low and everything in between. And that's just kind of my spot. I've had moments in my life where I worked really hard, 20-hour days and such. And I was just, like, oh man, that must have been terrible. I was like, I was still me, right? And I have times where I work much less. Still me, just me doing my thing. The water finds its level with regards to happiness and anxiety and stress, and that's just kind of where you are. If I dropped $10 million on someone who's worried about money, they'll worry about something else.
Yep. There's like one of the great, some people, if you go into more extreme areas, this is a big criticism levied at capitalism, is that like the acquisition of luxury goods and shit is like the driving force in our lives. Sometimes it seems like in our economy, right? Consumerism drives so much of us. But like everybody listening to this right now has gotten a new cell phone or maybe even a new car or something like that. And the first like week you have it, you've got like the special protectors and it is the most important fucking thing. And you're so happy that you upgraded. and then that wears off, and then it's just like another thing you have, and that happiness is so temporary, and it will never be like a long-lasting, fulfilling, like permanent elevation of what you call like your kind of set happiness level. It never comes from the acquisition of like more goods, you know?
Yeah. And like how many people every time the new iPhone or Android come out upgrade no matter what? It's like just for that little hit.
Yeah. And it's not like
happiness.
it's not like I had the iPhone 8 and I'm so fucking happy and I'm still happy. And now I'm getting the iPhone 9 and I'm even happier. And then 10 years and I'm going to get the iPhone X and I'm even more happy. And it's like, no, it's about the same ride every time, you know?
Yeah, you just come up a little bit and then you go back down to where you were. Because this is just now the old phone, the who cares phone.
Yep.
Is it out there the kind of work that, or do you talk about the kind of work you used to do before you got into streaming?
I was a carpet cleaner. So we did carpet cleaning and water damage restoration. It was like 80 to 90 hours a week. So I would work 10 to 14 hours a day, every other Sunday off. So usually in 13-day stretches. And my paychecks were around like $1,000 to $1,500 every other week. It was the worst period of my life.
That's
Holy
terrible.
shit.
How long did you do that?
Probably about a year and a half. I worked at a casino before then, and then I worked at McDonald's before that. But like, yeah, holy shit, it was so fucking horrible.
Wait, you made $500 for 100 hours?
It's like,
yeah. So the really weird thing is
That's
the
like-
way that this would work. The way that it would work would be you have to show up at the shop every day at like 6 or 7 a.m. So you roll in, you get your truck ready. But what might happen is you have one job scheduled from 7 to 8, and that'll be a minimum service job. You get $15 for it, right? So I'll work my job from like 7 to 8, and it seems good, 15 an hour. This is why I got suckered into it, right? But then my next job might not be until like 11, and that might be an 11 to 1, right? So I do the 7 to 8. I go back to the shop. I don't really have anything to do for 2 hours. Then I've got a job from like 11 to 1. Maybe that gives me $30, and then maybe I've got one more job at like 4 to 5 or something, or 5 to 6. So I'll make like $40 or $50 in a day, but I'm there for like fucking like 10 or 12 hours, right? That kind of shit with the scheduling of jobs is like, it was so fucking horrible. Yeah. And then some of the work, even for 14, 15 an hour, when you start talking about like tearing insulation off of like the shit behind drywalls and then getting like a chipper and like scraping the fucking shit off the wall that glues the insulation. Oh my God, dude, that work was just fucking horrible shit. Ugh.
Did you ever come across anything just filthy, disgusting in the cleaning biz? Like, what was the nastiest shit you found?
The weirdest, nasty shit. I mean, there was
Nasty
some standard,
or weird,
like,
either one.
So the weirdest job I ever fucking did, I show up at this guy's house, and it's like a standard house, pretty standard. I go upstairs, and there's a guy there, and he's a little bit off. I don't know how to describe it, but just a little bit too rigid, a little bit too concerned with everything going on. And I kind of talk to this guy. He sits down and he's looking at me, and he's like, the only question he asks me is the type of detergent you use, does it encapsulate, or is it emulsifying? And I kind of look at the guy and I'm like, yeah. And he's like, okay, you can clean my house. So he wants me to do the whole upstairs. It's all carpeted upstairs, the bedrooms and everything, right? So I drag my hoses out of my fucking car, get everything all hooked up, get the corner guards all in, get the little booties around my shoes, and I'm cleaning. And it gets to the point where I clean out the living room, I clean the kitchen, and then I'm working my way down the hallway to the bedroom. And when I get to the, there's like a little T intersection where I'm at the end of the hallway, and then there's a room to the left and a room to the right. He is sitting there in the room to the left, and he looks like this, where I can't really see like what's in his waist, but there's a computer monitor that's facing me. There's a camera on top, and there's like a woman in like lingerie, like on like looks like a campsite, and she's just kind of looking at me. And then he's just kind of looking at me, and I am so fucking uncomfortable right now. And I kind of look at him, and I kind of like wave at him, and I just keep cleaning, and I do my shit. And eventually I finish and I pack my shit up. And it was like the most bizarro fucking experience of my life.
Got a couple of more stains to get in here.
Yeah, like, as I'm working on the other room, like I'm like constantly waiting for this guy to just come behind me and then come beside me. Like just like crazy fucking shit. Like it was so weird. Like the guy was probably, I'm trying to think of this in a nice way, like a special guy, like, is barely able to live on his own. Like he's a little off like that. But oh my God, it was so fucking weird to have that happen. Holy shit.
Did you have to clean the room while he was in there with a cam girl?
I didn't have to clean that room. Thank the fuck. I don't even know what I would have done if I would have had to do that one. Yikes.
He wasn't even courteous enough to angle the computer away as he masturbates while you're cleaning his
Well, it looked like he was trying to let the woman see me. So I don't know if I was like playing into some voyeuristic fantasy or something, because the computer, it was one of those really old massive CRT monitors, was like angled so that I could clearly see it. I'm pretty sure she was looking at me. And then he was like looking at me as like his lap is hidden from me. And I have like no fucking idea. Like, oh God.
That sounds awful.
The worst types of jobs are the carpet cleaning shit. If you have any carpet cleaners in your audience, maybe they can relate, was doing jobs in the winter. Because what would happen is you'd have a giant tank of water in the back of your van, and you turn on your truck-mounted machine. What you would have to do is you'd have to run the cables in and out of the house incredibly quickly, because if you didn't, your fucking lines would freeze. And as your lines would freeze, you would have to like you'd have to open the line, you'd have to dislodge it, you'd have to dip it into the hot water exchange in your tank, and then you'd have to plug it back in real quick and like run inside, and you had to clean at a certain speed or else shit would start to freeze up and you have to run outside. Oh my God.
All this for $15 an hour at best.
Yeah. Holy shit. It was so fucking horrible. I have like so much like for blue collar workers, that shit is so bad, dude. Oh my God. I feel so bad for people that have to like do. It's a good
experience though, isn't it?
It
like,
definitely. When I hear other streamers that are like 25 and they're talking about like, oh dude, like I just can't get out of bed to stream every day. And it's like, dude, I make 20 times as much money as I did to sit down and play computer games versus having to drag a power scrubber off the back of a fucking van that weighs as much as I do. I will do this shit until I fucking die.
Yeah. Like, because you have an appreciation for it.
Oh,
exactly.
Like, you know the value of $1 in a way that they don't.
I've talked so many times about how young people can be ruined by success, and it's true on YouTube. But you also, I mean, it's cliche in Hollywood of child stars and anywhere. This, it ruins you. It ruins you. You don't want.
It does.
You think you're different, that you'll be better, but no. If you hit it big at 16. Good luck being 25.
Anthony Cumia talked about that. He's come on our show a few times, of the Opie and Anthony show. I'm not sure. It used to be an XM radio show. I'm not sure if you're familiar, Steve. But
I am.
He was talking about, before he got into radio, he was like a tin knocker, like fixing roofs and putting in AC and that kind of stuff. And he talks about how terrible it was making shit money, working all day. And if you had to poop, you'd have to go out to the van and then get a spackle bucket and squat over it in the back of a hot van and take a shit. And he was talking about how, like, every time he'd be shitting on a 5-gallon bucket in the back of that van, being like, God, like, this can't be all that life is. Like, shitting in a bucket in the back of a van. And so then he got his big paying gig, and of course, you know, really appreciates it.
Actually, this applies like evenly to, this is why I think like student loans are like so fucking weird to me. Like when you're a kid and you haven't worked before, money doesn't mean anything to you. The idea that you take an 18-year-old is like, do you want $150,000 to go to school? Like, well, of course they'll say this, because what the fuck does $150,000 mean? And I noticed that with a lot of streamers that got into it right out of college, when they have to decide, like, do I want to do this? Do I want to do, like, oh, I don't know if I make enough money, blah, blah, blah. Like, when I do, like, a sponsorship deal, like, I have a lot of perspective. You know, if some mobile game wants to pay me $10,000 to stream a game for, like, fucking 3 days, it's like, okay, well, that $10,000, that was, like, 6 months of work. Or like 4 or 5 months of work to me that I could do in 3 days. That blows my fucking mind, you know? Or like I can do like 3 or 4 sponsor deals, and this is like the median or like the lower class like income for an entire fucking year. And it's not even hard work, comparatively speaking, you know? Like, not to downplay, you know, being an online figure is incredibly hard, and there's a whole new set of challenges you have to deal with. But like, I would much rather deal with the challenge today of like, how do I deal with people calling me a pedophile or some crazy shit online, versus before where it's like, how do I deal with the fact that I can't really afford the house that I'm in right now, and I'm not going to school, and I'm working a shit job where I have absolutely no future in front of me, and I've got no light at the end of my tunnel. Like, I'm basically working until I die, you know?
Yeah, it's got probably a very hopeless feeling.
Super fucking hopeless. Oh yeah, holy shit. And when you start to fall behind, you're fucked. You have no way out. Nobody to bail you out with any money, because if you're poor, you don't get any bail. All the loans you can take are purposely designed to fuck you as hard as possible, right? Payday loans and title loans and shit, like 5,000% APR. I paid off a bunch of, my uncle came to me one day and showed me like how he was getting money, and I couldn't believe it. He was showing me these slips where he'll take a gun to a pawn shop and he lets them hold on to, like, he's got like a huge collection of World War I and World War II exotic rifles, and he'll let him hold a gun, and they give him $300, and he pays them like $350 back in like 2 weeks. And I'm like, $50 on $300 in 2 weeks. Like, if you do the math, you're like in the tens of thousands of percent of like interest here on this loan. Like, I just got a loan in a house for like fucking 4.25 or like 4%. Like, this is insane how fucked you are in so many different ways when you're poor. Yeah, fuck.
Yeah. And
Yeah, Louis
you know,
C.K.
all
has
of our
a
education.
bit on that. That's kind of funny. He's like, when you're broke, they just start charging you for everything. There's fees for your bank. There's fees for this. When you're rich, they just give you money. Here,
Yeah, they waive everything.
take some
yeah,
more.
you're totally...
Everything's waived, and it's
Yeah.